I'd now like to call on the Honourable David Chomiak, Minister of Mineral Resources and MLA from Kildonan, and the longest-serving Energy and Mines Minister in the country. When we sit down at the annual Mines and Minerals, at the annual Energy and Mines Ministers conferences, we look around the table. The Minister has always been, over the last few years, the longest-serving Energy and Mines Minister in Canada. So welcome, Minister.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Elder, for the opening prayer and for starting this portion of the conference off in an appropriate fashion, particularly in light of what we're going to hear from several of the speakers today. Just before I begin, there's a lot of very important people in this room. You're all important people, but one of my colleagues in the legislature, Clarence Peterson, is here today, so I want to welcome Clarence to this venue. So yesterday, I was honored that one of the companies very kindly offered me Winnipeg Jets tickets for tonight's game. which I gratefully declined with a good deal of thanks. We've always considered ourselves as a government as a government that's a can-do, and that's actually what my message is today. Before I do that, I just want to outline to you a little story that I think helps frame the discussion. When I was health minister 67 years ago, it seems like a long time ago, it was about 12 years ago, 10 years ago, there was a dormitory at Selkirk Mental Health Institute, and the patients stayed in the dormitory. Most of the patients were schizophrenic, which is a very serious illness. If you don't, I'm sure all of you in one way or another has come in contact with someone who has schizophrenia. We have lots of ways of treating it now, but at the time there wasn't a lot. Schizophrenia is like having 50 television stations talking to you at once. That's how it's been described to me, and I've certainly seen a lot of it. Anyway, we had a dormitory that was 100 years old, and there was about 50 or 60 of these people in one room. Can you imagine in this era how uncomfortable and how terrible the living conditions were? Now, there was no advocate for these people, but very quietly and without any fanfare, we rebuilt that center to provide separate dormitories and separate programming for all of those patients. And since then, while we haven't been able to cure that affliction, there's a lot of people out there who, they don't talk about it because it's not something you really can pass around, but where the families and the people in that whose families suffer from that are so much better off. And for those of you who don't, you see us in government and we conflict and we bounce off of you periodically. That's one of the things that we're supposed to do. Today, I want to talk about 10 action things that we are doing together with you and by you to make mineral resources, mineral resource exploration, mineral resource extraction a better environment and a more attractive place, and a place where more wealth is shared here in Manitoba. Number one, in 2013, mineral exploration expenditures in Manitoba dropped to $57.7 million, which is only 2.5% of total Canadian exploration. Our goal, Mission 1, is to double the amount of exploration expenditures to 5% of total Canadian expenditures. Goal 2, we saw significant growth in mineral production with the official opening of 2 new mines this year, Reed and Lawler, The $470 million in investment has led to the creation of over 370 jobs. Thank you, Hudbay and VMS Ventures, their partner at Reed. 3, Vale continues its discussions with Environment Canada to finalize plans to keep Thompson Smelter and Refinery open until 2019. 4, Vale is proceeding on the path towards making a significant investment in their Thompson mining operations. They've commenced the feasibility study of Thompson Footwall Deep Project, an extension of the Thompson deposit, which contains 11 million tons of nickel-bearing ore. It could guarantee the operations for another 15 years. 5, this year we topped up the most comprehensive mineral exploration incentive program in Canada, which includes the Mineral Exploration Assistance Program, the Manitoba Prospectors Assistance Program, and double work expenditure credits, as well as a 30% mineral exploration tax credit, the most generous in the country. 6, Manitoba raised the profile of the challenges facing junior mining sector with the ministers at the annual Energy and Mines Ministers meeting in Sudbury. We've written with PDAC to the Federal Minister of Finance, the Honourable Joe Oliver, offering Manitoba's support for the continuation of public geoscience funding, investment in infrastructure, and renewal of the federal mineral tax credit. 7, I recently met with a delegation of junior mining companies, and we had a good discussion about their issues and concerns, and we are following up on their suggestions on how to improve the permitting process. 8, I'm pleased to report that Mineral Resources and Conservation and Water Stewardship have signed an interdepartmental memorandum of understanding to establish a Mineral Potential Assessment Committee, MPAC. MPAC will assume the role previously undertaken by MELC. We anticipate MPAC will begin its work soon, reviewing the mineral potential in the Polar Bear Provincial Park study area and the Seal River area. 9, MPAC will also review existing Rank 1 areas of special interest, areas where mineral rights have been withdrawn, but the areas have not been designated as protected areas. The goal of MPAC will be to provide geoscience data to allow Manitoba to responsibly reach its goals for the creation of protected areas without compromising economic development opportunities that create steady growth and good jobs. 10, last year we established the Ministers' Advisory Mining Committee to bring First Nations, mining industry, and government representatives together. These representatives who bring different perspectives to the Council agreed on a set of priorities to help increase mineral investment in Manitoba. Last night, as John said, we signed a lost but soon found declaration of priorities for the next stage of the Council's work, which includes development of government-to-government mechanism for resource revenue sharing. We've had tremendous discussions, tremendous understanding, tremendous recognition of the issues across the spectrum of mining affecting all of us. The next 2 speakers, Lovra Pollock, Chair of the Mining Association of Manitoba, and Chief Ron Evans will share their thoughts on the important work of the Council. Before I conclude, I just want to indicate that, through 15 years of being in government, and 24 years of being elected, I don't think I've seen as fair and as important and open-minded discussions as we've had at the Mining Advisory Council table, nor have I dealt, I think, with people who have been more earnest and honest in trying to move forward and developing plans to move forward. I started out by talking about can-do and telling you the story about those folks that didn't have a voice, that had their lives improved. I believe that what we've done with the declaration will mean that many people who've never had a voice will have their life improved. Thank you for all of you who've participated. Thank you for the work that's going to be on the ground and working in the future. I look forward to a more prosperous and equitable Manitoba. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Chomiak, for that vision. It certainly seems that the future in Manitoba is looking very bright indeed.